contributing the open source project. Matz is a developer in Ruby on Rails, React.js, and RxJS. He's currently working as a Rails developer in 5 Ruby incorporation, and he's passionate on building pretty UI and using JavaScript to build funny things in CodePen.io. May we now invite our speaker, Matz, please.
So, welcome to my talk, and today my topic is about a brand new programming language, which is like Ruby, Goby. And in the next 45 minutes, I will introduce what Goby is, and also introduce why using both Ruby programming language and integrate Go's feature. And also, I will introduce the awesome feature in Goby programming language, which is the plugin system. And last thing, I will share about my experience on contributing the open source. I'm Maxwell, and I come from Taipei, Taiwan, and I have about 2 years experience on front end. And this is my GitHub username, and let's see. This is my GitHub, and you can see that some of the project is created using JavaScript, and the most interesting project is that I use plain JavaScript to create different kinds of UI, and this is my portfolio. And also, currently I worked. Okay, it's too a little bit louder. And currently, I work in 5 Ruby incorporation in Taiwan. And we have cats in our office. So this is the black one, and this is the yellow one. And our company also hosts the event on Ruby conference. And the next year, we also integrated another programming language called Elixir. So if you ever heard of this language, I encourage you to look at this language called Elixir, because it is a functional programming language, and also this is another innovative design. And during my Hong Kong trip, I also take the pictures of the urban views. So this is the picture, and I love the urban view in Hong Kong. Now, and the chit chat. So let's get started. So, what is Goby? Goby-Lang's purpose is mainly to create microservices application. In this case, we usually refer to microservices as the application which is applied to high traffic situations. So often, developers choose Go as the main programming language to create such kind of applications. But we want a more productive way. So this is why Goby is invented in this kind of situation. So currently Goby has a built-in HTTP web server, and it also has several DB libraries. So you can visit our sample site, which has a simple code, and this website's backend is entirely created using Goby. Now, why integrating the feature of Ruby programming language? So, Goby uses the Ruby-like syntax. As the father of Ruby, Matz said that he wishes that Ruby programming language makes programming more fun and more productive. So, in the same sense, Goby aims to create the microservices in a more productive way and more joyful way. But how does the programming language result in high readability or high productivity? Let's see the C program which is presented in this slide. never mind that if you didn't know what this program is doing about. But this program, although it's written in C and it has high efficiency, developers also took some time to familiarize the code rather than to writing it. So that makes a little bit exhausting during the development. So if you look at that code, which is previously presented in the previous slide, then in Ruby programming language, it's just written only on this line. It is calculating the time, which is 3 days ago. So Ruby takes the advantage of reading the program, which is grammatically like English, like the human language. So it's easily to briefly view through the Ruby program and knows what it's exactly doing. However, this strategy is not always good because let me give you an example. When you view at the programming language, I think it's called the Apple script, which is some kinds of task automation on Mac OS. And you can see that although this program is very readable, but when it comes to developing such kinds of program, like the if statement on the stating on top, if folder applications of startup disk exists, then do something. So although this line is very clear that what it is doing, but there are two verbals or too many words that we cannot distinguish between whether which kind of word is the keyword in the reserved word in this programming language or which kind of word is the variable. So that is why using the way to let human quickly know what programming is doing is not also equals to higher productivity. Now, why using the Go programming language to implement this Goby programming language? Because we want to integrate the concurrency mechanism, which is powered by Go routine in Go. So before understand why we want to integrate this feature, let's say the first concept is to understand the difference between the concurrency and parallelism. So before that, many people usually view concurrency is equal to parallel. However, that's not the same concept. So let's view the definition of these two terms. So concurrency's definition is to dealing lots of things at once. However, parallel is doing lots of things at once. That is kind of very hard to understand the two things because aren't they exactly the same things due to their definitions? So in order to illustrate more on the difference between these two terms, let's say doing the laundry. So you can see that I separated this example into 3 parts, 3 subtests. The first one is to collect the clothes, and this is Gopher, which is the mascot in the Go programming language. And the second task is to do the laundry, of course. And the third task is to dry the clothes. So you can see that I break the task, the doing the laundry, into several steps. And each steps are executed independently. And you can say those tasks are also mutually independent. They didn't share any kinds of data or memories, and they have nothing to do with them. So let's say I double the piles of clothes, which is like this. So you can see that I put another gopher to help me do the laundry. And now the next step is to do the laundry, but however, there's only one laundry, so I give it another one. So after doing the laundry, then both of the gopher also dries the clothes at the same time. This seems like the idea of parallelism. However, it is still not automatically parallel. Why? Because there's a condition. If there is only one golfer moves at a time, which is the first golfer first do the laundry first, then switch to the second golfer. If this condition is applied like this result is still in a concurrent way rather than parallel. So, but another idea comes from this. The design can be parallel if both of the golfers do the same thing at the same time. So by design, it's parallelizable, which also means that there exists another way or multiple ways to design how this task being concurrent. So let's say this time we apply 3 golfers in different kinds of tasks. So this design is 3 times more faster than the previous example. So the first golfer handles the collecting the clothes, and the second one does the laundry, then pass the clothes to the third one to dry the clothes. So this is 3 times faster, and the same notion. However, it is still not parallel. Why? Because although they do the things, but they do not do the same things at the same times. This is just doing multiple independent tasks, which is not the same. So this is still a concurrent pattern, but it is parallelizable. Let's double the procedure into 2 rows. So you can see that this time we have 6 golfers doing each independent things. So this graph illustrated that there is a pack of golfers doing the laundry. Oh, this is not the idea I want to talk about. It is parallelizations. So if these 2 rows of golfers does the same thing at the same time, so which means that 2 golfers dry the clothes at the same time, not just switching the work between them. This is parallel. But as I mentioned before, it can also be not parallel at all. Why? Because if the same thing, if there is only one golfer moves at a time, then this design pattern is still in the concurrent way. So you can see that the concurrency illustrated an important notion is that composition of independent executing processes. It matters a lot on breaking a task into subtasks. And these subtasks are also mutually independent. They have no shared things between them. And another thing, parallel emphasizes the idea of doing the same thing simultaneously. So different concurrency pattern results in different parallelizable ways. And back to the definition between the 2 terms. So concurrency deals with breaking the task into multiple subtasks and arrange them, organizing them, structuring them. So it can have multiple kinds of design patterns to let it parallelizable. However, parallel is just emphasizes only one thing, simultaneous executions. So which means it's just doing lots of things at the same time. Now, you know the difference between concurrency and parallel. Let's compare let's understand the difference between the goal routine and the thread. So what is goal routine? What's the difference between them? Let's say this diagram has a block which is illustrated as the operating system. So when setting up a new thread, it must request a resource from the operating system. So you can see that the program is executing via the thread. And when after the program is done execution, then the thread will be teared down and return the resource back to the operating system. So this is what threads sometimes look like. And now, what about Go routines? So when executing the Go program will handle several a fixed numbers of threads. So if you ever coded in Go language, then you can also specify how many threads do you want to use during the execution in the Go program. So Go programs handles a fixed number of threads, and also it sets up the Go routines, which is something a little bit like threads. So it also manages these Go routines, and in Go programming language, it has something called scheduler. It will auto-scheduling those routines and distribute it into threads if the thread has space to execute those Go routine, those tasks. So this is the basic illustration between what thread and Go routine is. But there are other ways to understand them. So let's say, what is their memory consumption? So when establishing a new thread, it starts out with about 1 megabyte. In the Go routine, it only starts with 2 kilobytes, which is a kind of lightweight abstraction over operating system's thread. The second aspect is the setup and teardown cost. So back to the diagram which I presented before. So you can see that thread is set up by the operating system. So it needs to request the resource from the OS and also return the resource back to the operating system. However, Go routines doesn't need to interact within the operating system's level. It just setting up and tear down during the Go runtimes. And so you can see that the Go program simulates some concepts like thread, like operating system's thread. And the third one is the switching cost. You can view this as the cost between setting up and tearing down the threads. So when setting up tearing down the threads, it needs to save or restore the memory about over 16 registers. So if it comes to a high rapid switching conditions, it really cost significant. So on the other hand, Go routines only requires to save or restore only about 3 registers. So that's kind of cheap, and this is also handled by Go runtimes itself. So now recap the difference between them. So you can see that threads start with 1 megabyte. Go routine just only start with 2 kilobytes. And thread needs to interact in the operating system level. However, Go routine is just set up or destroyed during the Go program runtime. And the third one is the switching cost. So switching cost. So thread must to save or restore the memory about 16 registers and more. But Go routine just simulates these registers and only just need to deal with only 3 registers. Now, this is these 2 features which Goby implements the Ruby-like syntax and integrates the concurrency mechanism in the Go programming language. And so Go routine is a kind of concurrency pattern which is implemented in Go. Now, let's talk about the plugin system, which is in Goby programming language, and why you should try it. So when it comes to the plugin system, the main feature of the plugin system is let you work with both Goby language and the Go packages at the same time. So there's an API called the use method in the plugin system. So it lets you access the Go packages during the runtime. So how did it do that? For example, in the left-hand side, there is a Go file, Go package, which is written by yourself. And the right-hand side is the Goby file, which is, you can see that it requires a plugin library. And the second line, P, assigns with the plugin.use and use the file name of the Go package. And what it does, it compiles the Go package first, and then generates something which is a kind of static object file. And then there is a pointer which points to this file and assigned in this P variable. So it calls the Go function. You can use the gofunc method to call the Go function, which is recorded in the Go package. So you can see that it prints out the value hello. And the next API is called the generate method. So what it does is compose the Go packages on the fly. So let's take a look on this example. This plugin generates file which is written in Goby, and in the same way requires the plugin and generates a plugin called DB. And you can see that we can use the import package method to import a package from the Go libraries. And also we can link the function. And what it does is first generates the Go file. Automatically generate this. This is not written by yourself. This is generated during this runtime. And now does the same thing as the use method. So it compiles and generates the static object file. So then you can guess that it generates also another pointer, points to this file, and assign to the variable which you assign in. So this plugin system also helps on our development on our Goby programming languages development. So when it comes to something like DB adapters, so we do have Postgres DB adapter in Goby, and which is written in Go. So, but we discover something that plugin system also already helped to access the rich resources of the Go packages. So which means that we can just use the package which is already on GitHub and import them, use it in our Goby project. So let's visit our sample sites again. So this is our sample sites, and you can see that this is the server file, which is returned in Goby, and this is kind of exactly like Ruby syntax. And you can see that this is a built-in HTTP server in our Goby language. And this, if you ever written in Ruby on Rails, or if you are using Python, the Django, you might come to something like active records, those models, query systems. So this is in Goby, this is a kind of like the model. And the third one is the plugin. So we just use the plugin generate method to import the packages from GitHub, which is in the Go community. And then we can call the Go function to open the Postgres DB's connection. So you can see that this sample size illustrated the basic features of a plugin system, and also show you how to integrate the server and the DB adapter into your own project. So this site is 100% built in Goby language. To recap that, you can see that you can work with both Go packages and the Goby programming language at the same time, using the plugin system, access the Go package, or just require a Go library. And the the Goby library also might contain some other Go packages. However, this feature currently is support for Linux system only because only Linux or Unix-like system can generate the correct format of the plugin. So let's recap all of the features or why implementing Goby in this section. So why implement the Ruby-like syntax? Because it has a high readability, which results high productivity. And the second one is why integrated Go's feature, because we want the Go's concurrency mechanism to help us deal with the request response using the Go routine, which is built in the Go programming language. And the third one is the plugin system, which is implemented in Goby. So it helps you access the rich resources of the Go library. Now, other concepts such as concurrency and parallelism is also introduced because it helps you to understand the difference between the thread in the operating system and the Go's Go routine. Now, let me share about my experience on contributing the open source project. So, when it comes to contributing to a new programming language, many people think of that this is kind of difficult for everyone, no matter where you come from or which field you are professionalized on. Initially, I just want to fulfill my curiosity to explore more on computer science. And one day, Goby's creator has presented his project, and somehow I got a strong feeling to join this project and want to explore more on creating programming language. And during the collaboration with other committers, I never thought that there are so many people, so many developers around the world gathering for just a simple idea, which is just wrap a Ruby syntax over the Go's feature. This idea, and they collaborated voluntarily. Moreover, not only just join the Goby organization, and also I have learned much more things during the contributions, such as how compiler works. If you ever heard how compiler works, you may see that there have some Lexus layer, parser layer, and it also generates something called abstract syntax tree. So briefly, Lexer is just to break your program. Like in Python language, you sometimes import something from some libraries. So it just breaks this sentence into multiple words. And then the parser will try to understand these keywords or variables or some other kinds of data. So parser will then generate something called abstract syntax tree. So this is kind of like parsing an expression and then executes this abstract syntax tree, which results something like binary files or something like that when you comes to some language which needs compilations. And another thing learned from contributing Goby is by accident, because our simple site initially being attacked by other users using cross-site scripting. this is a kind of serious security issue. So if you never heard about this attack, it means the attackers inject the client-side script into web page. So they use some malicious JavaScript, something like that, and injects into our website and almost crash down our sample site. So if you see that these are some samples of injection, if you try it on some websites, or maybe they somehow can execute these statements. So strings in Goby at that time forgot to escape just a single little character called the double quotes. So which leads to the crash of front end because of wrong JSON format. So in this pull request, it says that we need the methods to escape the characters. You can see that. So you can see there, the comments below says like full, which with a span tag, and style equals some attributes. And you can see that the double quotes between the color colon red is not being escaped. So this issue crashed down our sample site. So I sent a pull request which solves only these little problems, but this problem is also a little bit terrifying because it's almost crashed down the whole site. So let me check it for you. So you can see that this is a pull request that I sent at that time, and if you drag it down, you can see there is a huge switch case which is written in Go and just to escape the string. So actually this bug is easy to solve it. And so I ended up fixing this small but terrifying bug on string parsing. Anyway, dealing the string is a huge and nasty task because it's not only just involved with escape character, like if you code in Python, there is something called formatting strings, or in Ruby there is string interpolations. So there are other kinds of stuffs which is also needs to be implemented in the string, which is kind of very robust or very nasty. And so that is the power of open source that impacts me during contributing on Goby. So let's take a brief view on Goby's achievements. So the project Goby previously is named after the Ruby programming language with 2 O's. And it started on about February 8th, which is 8 months ago. But of course, there's a developer who sent a issue says that need to rename the programming language because the word Ruby with the 2 O's is pronounced exactly like Ruby programming language, which might cause some like misunderstandings. And in just 8 months, it achieves 2,000 stars worldwide. And there are over 30 developers which dedicated their passion on collaborating in this open source project. And also, this project is being promoted on Hacker News twice. So if you ever heard of this Hacker News, there are many developers on this world. They posted their information here. And and there is also, Goby is placed on daily keywords on product hunt. So we encourage you to briefly view on product hunt. There are a lot of fun things on there. Well, of course, this is also an achievement because other developers, malicious users trying to destroy our app, but also helped us discover this kind of bugs. So we encourage you to submit the issues on GitHub and that makes you a good contributors. We use softwares and we love free. So why don't we join this role with all the passionate developers around the world? So contributing on open source is not just about contributing codes, but also documentation is a big issue for every open source because often developers took too much time on Googling rather than just implementing their features. And also opening issues, promotions are important steps to use the softwares. So any kinds of contribution are equivalently significant. You can change the world even by just simple means, simple actions. Starting your own project, even if just a simple experiment, is also another kind of contribution because you are trying to bring your thought into this reality. And maybe someday you innovate something interesting. So let's just do it. And I mean it seriously. Because in this world, open source community also creates so many kinds of events, such as you can see that this event this is called Hacktoberfest. And this event is, if you send the pull request on any kinds of public repo on GitHub, you can earn a limited edition t-shirt. So if you are interested, I encourage you to visit this website. And last thing I want to say, I believe I do not gain the opportunity. However, I reached and realized it because every action joining this open source project is just my decision, not just the opportunity that offered by Goby's creator or something else. And during this contribution, I learned a lot. So thanks to the creator of Goby, who also taught me a lot on creating the programming language. And also this talk is supported from my company. And most importantly is that SITCON Hong Kong offers me this opportunity to stand in this stage and promote this awesome programming language. Thanks for your listening. And by the way, if you want stickers, you can come to me.
Thank you, Matz. Up next, we will have two different talks in different lecture theaters. Transferring painlessly from web to mobile apps with React Native by Rachel in Lecture Theater 17, which is across the hall. And the gig Walk with Sanity in this tag Gold Rush by Clara Chow in Lecture Theater 18, which is here. While both talks will be conducted in English with English presentation slides.
And if you have any questions, you are welcome to have a conversation about this programming language. Or you can also consult me on experience on contributing on the open source project.
係斷咗個需要。
斷咗佢再原來，因為要查走呢個。
OK，我
陣間搬去嘅 P40做 workshop。
下一場15分，仲有10分鐘，我要讀字我先。那時候工人繼續拉，偷看應該找偷看也是騙人的。那時候那個也是很危險。
多拿一下给我的朋友。
怎么说啊？你可以就是 feedback，
因为这种东西在呈现能量跟限制的时候，会很多时候会被觉得，因为灯泡上面很难，所以在新的投影机会挺大，可是现场投影中有些状况不知道，所以这种亮色性质会变。你刚刚看得出来那个颜色变得很大，我变化。所以我不会建议用这么亮的镜头，就是不用蓝灯，太亮的颜色会有点很可怕，会不好。
就这个什么可能需要开闪注意。因为其实接入机，其实因为我想剩3分钟，是我幸好其实还有
还要准备更多。
其实没有50张，但是我只看到其中1张
我尋日聽人同我講話有條 input 嗰陣時綠色嘴嗰個。
綠色嘴。
因為搞呢個佢可能好快化。
我幾時去呢個？
เราแค่ละจะมาเอาตา
會 Clara 知道睇。
我同佢講咗都。
應該好快OK。
夾咗，我introduction 夾咗，使唔使夾少少先？係啊。我哋我咩？我要我哋我係咪有事？我要放先。 去宜兰吗？哦，sorry。
可以聽下。
我覺得你可以吧。
今年18歲，相信你成日做翻嚟，咁我做嘅嘢咧就係 social media 嘅部分性嘅。由於我由細到大都好中意數理啦，即係做一啲 logical thinking 嗰啲 problem solving 啦，加上埋喺 program 嘅世界入邊會即係有啲小 bug 去 fix 啊，或者做一個小嘅卡數，亦都會有一個好大嘅滿足感。咁所以我中意 programming 啦。第二個原因就係由於我 Asperger 嘅 condition， 而我 Asperger 嘅 gift 就係 logical thinking。Asperger 係一種即係天生冇 empathy 嘅一個 condition 啦。咁好多人以為 Asperger 就需要啦，但係其實只不過一個 gift 嘅 logical thinking。我係 Clara， 今年18歲，我係新數理城嘅 co-founder。咁我做嘅嘢咧就係 social media 嘅數據分析。
就轉得係睇比較會變，對住。
由於我由細到大都好中意數理啦，即係做一啲 logical thinking， 一啲 problem solving 啦，加上埋喺 program 嘅世界入邊會即係有啲小 bug 去 fix 啊，或者做一個小嘅卡數，亦都會有一個好大嘅滿足感。咁所以我中意 programming 啦。第二個原因就係由於我 Asperger 嘅 condition， 而我 Asperger 嘅 gift 就係 logical thinking。Asperger 係一種即係天生冇 empathy 嘅一個 condition 啦。咁好多人以為 Asperger 就需要啦，但係其實我只不過一個 gift 嘅 logical thinking。我係 Clara， 今年18歲，我係新數理城嘅 co-founder。咁我做嘅嘢係 social media 嘅數據分析。由於我由細到大都好中意數理啦，即係做一啲 logical thinking， 一啲 problem solving 啦，加上埋喺 program 嘅世界入邊會即係有啲小 bug 去 fix啊，或者做一個小嘅卡數，亦都會有一個好大嘅滿足感。咁所以我中意 programming 啦。第二個原因就係由於我 Asperger 嘅 condition， 而我 Asperger 嘅 gift 就係 logical thinking。Asperger 係一種即係天生冇 empathy 嘅一個 condition 啦。咁好多人以為 Asperger 就需要啦，但係其實我只不過一個 gift 嘅 logical thinking。我係 Clara， 今年18歲，我係新數理城嘅 co-founder。咁我做嘅嘢咧就係 social media 嘅數據分析。由於我由細到大都好中意數理啦，即係做一啲 logical thinking， 一啲 problem solving 啦，加上埋喺 program 嘅世界入邊會即係有啲小 bug 去 fix啊，或者做一個小嘅卡數，亦都會有一個好大嘅滿足感。咁所以我中意 programming 啦。第二個原因就係由於我 Asperger 嘅 condition， 而我 Asperger 嘅 gift 就係 logical thinking。Asperger 係一種天生冇 empathy 嘅一個 condition 啦。咁好多人以為 Asperger 就需要啦，但係其實我只不過一個 gift 嘅 logical thinking。我係 Clara， 今年18歲，我係新數理城嘅 co-founder。咁我做嘅嘢咧就係 social media 嘅數據分析。由於我由細到大都好中意數理啦，即係做一啲 logical thinking， 一啲 problem solving 啦，加上埋喺 program 嘅世界入邊會即係有啲小 bug 去 fix啊，或者做一個小嘅卡數，亦都會有一個好大嘅滿足感。咁所以我中意 programming 啦。第二個原因就係由於我 Asperger 嘅 condition， 而我 Asperger 嘅 gift 就係 logical thinking。Asperger 係一種即係天生冇 empathy 嘅一個 condition 啦。咁好多人以為 Asperger 就需要啦，但係其實我只不過一個 gift 嘅 logical thinking。
This talk aims to provide participants with critical thoughts and ideas from speakers' experience in the quest for engineering career and IT innovations, rather than only information. We will take a journey through how to be the programmer that can make a fulfilled career before we start worrying about rocking the IT industry with innovations. Our speaker, Clara, is a software engineer currently running her own consultancy, Socialism media intelligence consultancy with Simon Lee. She designed and implemented a system for scanning and predicting results and outliers in the public discourse for advocacy and issues management. She is a self-taught engineer and has been working as a full-time software engineer since '60. Her work currently is mainly focusing on social media analytics, data science, and startups. Recently, Clara has been attracting media's attention as this self-determining programmer. May we now invite our speaker, Clara, please.
Thank you, everybody. So as our MC has told us, this talk is going to be about my experience and how I want to share my experience so that it can help you bridge yourself into society in the future and make a fruitful career. If you're planning to jot down notes on your laptop and stuff, I don't think it might be so needed because, as you see, you just won't need it. You can just listen to me, see if you've got any questions about my story. Feel free to ask anything at any point during the talk. So all of you have watched this video for like a million times. Okay, so this talk is like around 45 minutes and it's going to be in 3 parts. So the first part is about how to be a real programmer. So not like, I'm not going to teach you how to code because you've all learned that and you can all read that from Google. And the second part is going to be about startup and the myth with startup and the gold rush and like Silicon Valley, stuff like that. And the third part is going to be about data science and some of the real business applications. The first part, the beautiful programmer mind. You know Rick and Morty? I love it. Oh my god, you should watch it.
How is my son supposed to pass his classes if you keep dragging him off for a high-concept sci-fi rigmarole?
Listen, Jerry, I don't want to overstep my bounds or anything. It's your house, it's your world, you're a real Julius Caesar. But I'll tell you how I feel about school, Jerry. It's a waste of time. Bunch of people running around, bumping into each other. Got guy up front says 2 + 2. People in the back say 4. Then the bell rings. They give you a carton of milk and a piece of paper that says you can go take a dump or something. I mean, it's not a place for smart people, Jerry. And I know that's not a popular opinion. That's my 2 cents on the issue.
Okay, so actually I need to tell you a bit about my background. So when I finished my high school and I started working, and then the final year of my high school, I didn't go to university. I assume most of you are in university classes. How many of you are in university here? Students? In IT? Okay, coolio. So I'm not. So apparently you could be like much smarter with me in terms of theory and stuff. So really, you can put away your laptop, so I'm not going to give you any of the knowledge that you need. So I didn't go to university, and I started working as a web developer when I was 16. And then after 1 year, and I started to get into this sort of data field, data science, until right now. So as you see in the short clip right just now, Rick, which is the guy in like the scientist lab coat, he's saying that school is not for smart people. It's not a popular opinion. I would say it's like almost 80% true, for real. The thing with school is, personally, I think school is a delivery of knowledge. The teachers stand in front of the hall, you listen to the knowledge, you go home, you revise it, and then you pass your exam. But after all, education and learning is not only about school. You know, these days, market needs people who can adapt to different situations. In the past, maybe if you know how like a factory works, you can work there for like 20 years of your life, you know, and then you promote throughout the company, and then one day you'll be at the top of the senior level, you're happy with it, you've got your finance all sorted, you're happy with it. But these days not about this anymore, you know. We've got the internet, everything is digitalized, everything is moving at very, very high speed dynamic. It's not like before where you have skill, you can work with it for 10 years and make good money. It's not about this anymore. These days we need people that can adapt to different markets, different sort of projects so they can earn more. I mean, I know, shouldn't be money oriented, but that's the case. There is a very famous theory. It's a book called Outliers. In that book, they were saying that there's this rule called 10,000 hour rules. If you practice a skill for 10,000 hours, eventually you get to a point where you're like this sort of professional. But then the problem with the 10,000 hour rule is it's only applicable in fields where it's very structured and stable. For example, sports, music, chess, violin, guitar. You can imagine if you practice for 10,000 hours, which is equivalent to almost 10 years, you can excel at it. But there are fields like, especially IT, you know that things are changing every single day. You wake up the next day, there are new things that you're not aware about. So in this sort of industry, you can't just practice, and you become good. Then what can you do in such a sort of dynamic industry? In the past, like I said, you can just repeat practicing the same thing over and over again, but not the case anymore. These days, we need people who are able to learn to be a good learner. So instead of spending 10,000 hours practicing the same skill, what I think would be best for you would be to spend 10 years but practice to be a professional learner. So this is what you can do. 3 things for your notes. So first one is deliberate practice. Every time when you do something, your homework, revising for your exam, or one day when you start working, doing all your projects, not only do you try to deliberate practicing it, but you have to think through about everything that you do. Live through all your experience, make it part of your experience, make it into your memories, your actual experience, rather than just something that you can write on your CV, because it's not going to be as useful for you as it becomes in your experience. The second thing is problem-oriented learning. I think this would be, probably some of you have heard of it. I think the best way to make the most of what you can learn is by solving one problem and using your own creativity and experience to solve the problem, because by doing it your way, it'll be much more unforgettable and you'll live through it rather than trying to just memorize some sort of text, some sort of documentations, whatever you're trying to memorize. And third thing is embrace your diversity. When you're in IT industry, it's not only about being the best programmer or something like that, but it's about embracing your own personality, playing your own role in the team, making the most out of your character, build a character that is yours. I mean, being just like any other programmer doesn't benefit you. You have to be one that's your own unique role, so you're irreplaceable. After all that, what I want you to do is to not just to be a laborer. Labor is boring, you can get replaced by somebody else that is younger, or maybe you can get replaced by somebody else that seems to speak smarter. But the thing with having a good career is not to be a laborer, but then be this character that plays a unique role. When you can do that, you're irreplaceable, you excel at it. So at the end of the first part would be acquire the mindset and build your own character. Learn to be a learner, adapt to this world that's very dynamic. Don't have to worry about you're not doing the best in your exam. Don't have to worry about you're not memorizing as your peer does. Just acquire the mindset of being a programmer, learn to be a learner, build your own character. So this is the end of the first part. If any of you have got any questions, you can just ask questions about my story. It doesn't have to be related to the slides. I want questions.
Have you
Yeah.
got anything else that you enjoy doing despite all these, outside of the IT industry?
Outside of the IT industry, good question. I like drinking with friends. I like traveling. Things like that.